What if the strongest sorcerer alive carried flaws sharp enough to collapse the balance of everything? Gojo Satoru, praised as untouchable, hides vulnerabilities buried beneath infinity's perfection, waiting for enemies to exploit. His legend begins with unrivaled power, but cracks appeared the moment psychology was weaponized against him. The prison realm, a cursed object so absolute it trapped Gojo in timeless, inescapable darkness. 1 minute within 4 meters, staring into its monstrous eye, and infinity failed to protect him. Kenjaku exploited Gojo's deepest scar, wielding Suguru Geto's face to paralyze him for a fatal instant. Even 6 eyes, godlike perception collapsed, because grief struck harder than any cursed energy attack could. That moment proved his true weakness wasn't brute force. It was emotional, human, painfully vulnerable. Yet, sealing wasn't his only counter. Cursed tools emerged designed specifically to erase infinity's invincibility. Toji's inverted spear of heaven pierced his barrier, nullifying limitless and exposing Gojo's body to death. A single blade demonstrated that infinity bends when cursed technique erasure collides against its unshakable defense. Miguel's black rope, weaker but relentless, tore infinity's shield apart, letting physical blows land against him. Angel's Jacob's ladder surpasses them all, extinguishing any cursed technique, even Gojo's most sacred limitless itself. Imagine every barrier stripped away, infinity undone, leaving Gojo vulnerable before unstoppable destruction. But enemies evolved further, countering him not with objects, but with cursed technique mastery itself. Domain amplification cloaks users in a neutralizing veil, bypassing infinity completely and striking Gojo like anyone. Jogo and Hanami proved it, landing hits against the untouchable, forcing Gojo into reckless adaptation. He dropped limitless to counter, but the truth was clear. Infinity can be neutralized anytime. Sukuna later fused domain amplification with overwhelming force, breaking through Gojo's defenses like brittle glass. And in that moment, the myth of the invincible sorcerer began to fracture beyond repair. But cursed tools and domain amplification were only preludes to Gojo's most terrifying counters. Mahoraga, the divine general, adapts infinitely, evolving against any phenomenon, even infinity's absolute defense itself. First, it altered cursed energy's nature, neutralizing infinity's repulsion, forcing Gojo's technique into meaningless resistance. Then, adaptation deepened further. Its blade severed space itself, bypassing infinity entirely by cutting existence. Sukuna studied Mahoraga's evolution, forging world/and attack erasing space, not merely slicing through it. Infinity only separates objects, but world/ deletes the very space Gojo occupies, leaving no refuge. The strike doesn't travel, it manifests instantly, severing reality and ignoring every defense Gojo commanded. Gojo's legendary death wasn't weakness of will, but techniques transcending physical laws tearing infinity apart completely. Yet beyond techniques, Gojo's 6 eyes themselves created vulnerabilities that slowly eroded his invincibility. 6 eyes constantly process infinite information, straining mind and body, demanding blindfolds to prevent exhaustion. Prolonged battles dulled his senses, reflexes slowed, and fatigue left him vulnerable to relentless attackers. Toji Fushiguro exploited this exact weakness, wearing him down until his defenses cracked under sheer pressure. Every gift carries a curse. 6 eyes sharpen clarity but drain stamina, eroding strength over time. But his greatest weakness was never technical. It was his humanity, his fragile emotional core. The death of Suguru Geto left a scar, a blind spot enemies exploited with cruel precision. Kenjaku knew this wound, twisting it mercilessly, freezing Gojo during the Shibuya incident when seconds mattered. Overconfidence added fuel, arrogance bred isolation, and isolation magnified every crack enemies could turn into destruction. Even the strongest sorcerer stood alone, without equals, carrying a burden too heavy for one man. That loneliness, sharpened by arrogance, left him vulnerable when Sukuna's world/ finally shattered infinity's myth. Gojo's fall proved the ultimate truth. Even gods bleed when their weaknesses are ruthlessly exploited.